Hello.
Switch it up.
Hey,
We're
guys.
back. We're back. Stop talking about
Other stuff.
bad colors.
Yes. So, aside, another thing that we saw this last weekend, I think that it got buried in the other news. Really, I mean, but at the beginning of the Russian Grand Prix weekend, we were talking about how Red Bull actually went out and like practice, like they did a couple laps with their version of the head protection,
The canopy.
the additional head protection.
They're calling theirs the canopy.
What I mean, why
There's
not
the
a
halo,
windscreen?
really, there's the halo concept and the canopy concept. Yeah, it's like a windshield.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a windshield.
Right. Well, Lewis was very critical, calling it a riot shield. It looks like a fucking
That's a
police
bit
riot
dramatic.
shield.
That's a bit dramatic.
I don't know. I kind of I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't mean it doesn't look like that,
Right.
but
No, that's absolutely true.
Put a handle on there. The guy behind it's got a helmet on
Mm.
and a bodysuit,
and
boots,
an over
business,
and
boots for
an
business.
overinflated ego. But
See,
Well, I think Danny Rick's pretty cool.
I think
You didn't get too worked.
if this does take off, I'm not saying I think it should. Okay, I'm not saying I think it should, but if it does, I think it'll start making F1 evolve into the future, which I feel is inevitable, where everything looks like it's from outer space. And so this is the first steps. This is
Yeah.
like that evolutionary picture of like there's like a monkey and then the man on the end, and like it's slowly going over.
Okay.
This is like the second monkey, right? The first monkey is no windshield. This is like, oh fuck, okay, and then the next few get faster and sleeker looking. That's what I want. I want this thing to look like it's from an anime. That's how cool I want. It could still be a V600. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It just
it
wanna-
does look cool. This looks better than
It looks
stupid
cool.
Halo.
It looks
no, the
better
Halo
than the
looks-
Halo. You know what? I think I've been dancing around it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna say, somebody might die.
There's no
somebody
point.
might die, but I don't think they should bring this in.
right.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Even
not,
though
it's not
the-
solving any problems.
As the quote said, the cat's out of the bag. The ideas out there.
but
We
that's-
have to do it now. All that stuff.
That's thinking. It's thinking too short term, man.
little
I
bit.
think like, as always, F1 is thinking too short term,
know-
and just not focusing on what they should be focusing to solve. Let's say they do come up with something like this. Okay, right. Let's say that this is what is gonna be in the rules. What if immediately right after that they just come up with a better solution that doesn't involve anything like this? I think that because of the
like
ego,
a force field.
no, not necessarily
We've
a
already
force
talked
field,
about that.
but
Yeah.
let's think for a second. How about just material sciences is one of the fastest, most like ridiculously like leaping and evolving fields right now.
Yeah.
And what if all of a sudden, with all this new development with like graphene or whatever, they just come up with a better solution, or like maybe even something that just will make? Why not just invest in pushing forward and really developing some helmet technology? Why don't we just make the helmets capable of taking that impact of a tire coming at you or whatever, and like just have the helmet still be
You still get
all the
You
protection?
still get
that
the neck acceleration, even if the helmet doesn't deform or deflate. You still get
yeah, so work on that.
the head
Right, but I
the
feel
neck
like-
deflection.
So work on that. So work on that. You don't understand how, like, then, because then if you work on that technology, there could be so many like applications for that technology that are just not about motorsport worthy. We're talking about like this. We were just saying about going to the moon or whatever, and like how the European Space Agency wants to put people out there permanently and whatever. with these-
There's a race now between Europe, China, the United States.
with these
to put-
basically these
to build
domes,
a
that are,
permanent
like,
base on the
3D
moon
built.
to build a mine to dig up ice and build hydrogen and oxygen fuel stations.
Because the moon doesn't
But-
have an atmosphere, like there could be like all kinds of space junk flying at anybody that's doing a
You get hit by
moonwalk.
a meteor.
Why not spend your money? You're not gonna like, you know what I mean? Like this could be an actual technology that could be used. I mean, and as far-fetched as that sounds, tell me if not, if you wouldn't think that technology that, let's say they come up with like the impenetrable helmet or helmet system, body protection system that like eliminates all that jerk or whatever that you get from being hit, and like the head acceleration and all that, and you can port that easily to like a moonwalking vehicle. You know what I mean? Like there could be applications for that. There is absolutely
Moonbase.
no application.
Bungee.
Yeah, there you go. There's no other application to the windscreen. So why is F1 stuck on trying to bring things from the past instead of like looking towards developing like for the future?
There's no analytics or evidence to support that it needs to happen, right? And that they're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
I like
Justin Wilson, a lot of people are arguing about him. Would have been saved. Gio Bianchi would not have been saved. Going back like a decade now, Massa wouldn't have been in a coma with this, but you know, I don't want to give any. I'm gonna look. I just wrote it down, so I'm gonna find this out for next week. But in the past week, it wasn't Schubert or Arai or any of the racing helmet technology companies, but some of these. I don't want to say give any credit or take any credit away from anyone, but I saw this because this is a big, I don't know, subject, I guess, in football, American football, not soccer, but American football, where they wear helmets and they kind of run headfirst into each other like goats, and they smash heads. There's a new technology, a new helmet tech that was just kind of developed, and everyone, well, I don't know if anyone knows, but one of the big things with head trauma in auto racing, in football, or in combat sports, or any kind of sport where you might hit your head, is you hit your head, you get a concussion from your brain sloshing around and basically bouncing off the walls of your skull. Like you hit your head and your brain kind of goes the other way and sloshes around. This new helmet tech, which I don't know if they can bring it into F1 or how relevant it is, but it's something new. I'll find out for next week. I'll get into more detail, but it's sort of some sort of, I think it's a liquid filled helmet type thing that when they showed a regular helmet versus this in slow motion slamming into a wall side by side, and the one helmet deformed and sort of absorbed the energy and didn't transfer it to the person's neck, the player's neck or head.
Right.
And the other helmet, which is what's kind of been using now, like, you know, your head gets sloshed around. You get like that punch drunk or football drunk, like a lot of sports get, or this auto racing. If you get into an accident, it's far more rare. I think brain injury in auto racing, whether it's Formula One or NASCAR or Indy or any of these crazy sports or MotoGP, is lower incidence than probably football, soccer, rugby, or MMA, which those are probably the four other most dangerous head trauma sports. Where you're, like, part of the sport, the point of MMA is smashing your head and like kicking the other guy in the head. Part of the sport of football is lining up
rugby.
With American football, you line up in two lines and you smash your heads into each other. With rugby, or like Australian football type thing, or you kind of like, you all do that scrimmage and you huddle and you push as hard as you can, like rubbing trying to like crush the other guy's earlobes or something like.
Right. But even in that sport, it's different just because you're not protected, and these obviously these guys are very, very strong and tough. Yeah. And they've sort of built this resilience, but they're not actually slamming their heads into each other. Like, I played rugby in high school, and like, you're locking with people, right? There's a certain like connection that you just like, you don't want to fuck each other up. Yeah, that's not the point. Like, you want to be stronger than the other guy, obviously, but you're not there to fuck them up. Like an NFL player is like, no, I have to move as fast as I can to knock this guy over.
That's part of the culture of like American football players. Right. If you want to be an American football player at the top of the NFL,
NHL.
No, the NFL football league. The NFL football league. You start in high school and you listen to your coach. You're gonna get yelled at, and he's gonna tell you to smash your head harder into the other guy. Like, that's part of the culture of it. Like, don't be a pussy. You're not gonna smash your head. You're not playing on Sunday. You maybe you'll make the practice, but you know what I mean. And these guys, I'm kind of rambling, but I think pulling this around a little bit. These guys in modern F1, this modern league. Yeah. They used to practice, like, there used to be rules or no rules, basically. Like, Ferrari owns their own racetrack. there's the Red Bull Ring now. You used to take your car out, build it at the factory, and you get the drivers there, and you just test it all day, every day. You run them around. You could crash and die at any time. These guys now are practicing at home on computers. You know what I mean? Like, we watched that Red Bull video, I think, of Verstappen a couple weeks ago. Sky went to his house and, like, you know, show us, like, your garage, your go-karts and stuff. And he showed his living room. He's like, this is what I practice every day. I sit here. And he's playing, like...
Obviously, they have the crazy simulator.
He wasn't playing the
in
Codemasters PS4, PS3, PS4 game, which is shit, sorry. But... yeah, he's playing basically a video game where there's no chance of getting hurt. Like, you might have to pee and you just press pause, go to the bathroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know it's a different era, and people are gonna call me an asshole next time somebody gets a head injury. But I agree with Brundle and Lauda and Ecclestone and F1.
So
F1 is not about a halo or a canopy. That's my point.
Right. So I got 2 points that I want to make, and one is about so only one person has died in the NHL. Only one person has died ever on ice or on the field. Only one person has died on the field. I just looked it up. It's just Google telling me.
Even back in the day when they played NHL with no helmets.
Yeah,
you know, those guys were as strong as now. You're still shooting 100 kilometers an hour.
But one of those problems is that, like, obviously lots of people suffer from concussions, and that's not an immediate
some
thing
of the faces of those old goalies.
Yeah, they're all fucked up.
Horrifying.
But, you know, they lived.
Worse than Frankenstein.
Sort of. But the second thing I wanted to bring up was a point about, you know, like, people make the argument about it's like, oh, if they have, like, this canopy over the head, I won't be able to see their face.
Yeah.
You can't see their face anyways.
It's true.
You're retarded if you think that. So not, like, actually retarded, but, like, you're silly if you believe that, because like, any picture you look, like, I have to sometimes ask you, he's like, yo, which driver is that? It's like, he's got this kind of helmet on, so I think it's this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, that argument is pretty fucking moot. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So to remedy that, you could obviously, like, stick a fucking camera in the canopy. You could do that right on the dude, and you'd actually be able to see it. And then people are like, oh, what about the live audience? I mean, the live audience is a fraction of the attendance, right? Essentially, right? Like, sorry, the people that are at the track. Throw a thing in there, make it futuristic, make it cool, make it cool. You know what I mean?
Part of that I don't agree with. Something I heard Lauda say, Brundle say, a few of the other commenters say, the top guys that are talking about this. If you put on the halo, you put on the canopy, you can't see the helmet as much. Personally, I was never for the stick with the one helmet rule. I couldn't tell you what any driver's helmet looks like, and I don't identify them by that. I go by the T-bar. I always have, as long as I've been enough of a fan to identify drivers on the track.
Right.
I've been looking at that T-bar. As long as I've been a fan, that's T-bars, I think, pretty much being a thing. As far as I can remember, this being a black or a neon T-bar.
What if
that's what I look at.
What if cars were slightly more individualized to the driver?
The numbers that came in, people were against that a few years ago, but I think it's cool. You get a number, you stick with it for your career. That's your number,
right? But even a slight difference on a particular part of the car, like something else.
Well, they do that. They do that in NASCAR actually, where, like.
But that's
because you can't see the driver.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, because you can't see
the driver's heads in that.
Right.
But that's a different.
And
sport.
that's still successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can be done to, I guess, identify the driver. If this, I mean, I guess people are saying inevitably this will become, because now the cat is out of the bag. What I wanted to say is that no, the cat is not out of the bag. There's still something that can be done. Like, you can still push helmet technology till the vet. Like, you just not, if you're not even examining that as a possible a probability of like how you increase safety is by pushing forward helmet technology, then you're not considering all the options. You're just doing this because it's probably going to be the easiest to implement and what they know, what people know.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't want to distract myself now, but I think this helmet tech that I saw last week is close to a revolution. Like, this is going to revolutionize head injuries. It's been a huge topic in all sports the last 2 or 3 years. Head injuries, comas. concussions and just head trauma in general.
Yeah.
Even a small,
True, that's a big
a
talking
small
point.
like half-second knockout can change your life.
Absolutely.
So
Something I want to bring up.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an odd sort of perspective, but has there been anything else that's happened in Formula One in the last like 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Let's just say 1 to 5 years that you've been like, oh, I can't believe they've done that. They've made some sort of rule change, and then now it's been in the system for so long that you just sort of accepted it and it's moved on. Because I'm
a
assuming
lot, most of them,
most
really,
of it,
to be
right?
honest.
DRS, I guess, was one of the things that I wasn't necessarily a big fan of.
Yeah,
Right.
especially at first it wasn't working well because
Yeah.
they had they didn't know it was brand new, right? Like, and that was, I don't know, that was an interesting phase. Like, they made some interesting races because sometimes some of the tracks, the DRS zones were too long, and they just didn't know. Like, they worked out a formula, I guess. Like, it's within the meter. Like, you'll see like this DRS zone is 117 meters, and they've calculated that's the most
Like by
efficient.
math, right?
Yeah, like you should be able to get enough of an advantage to probably pass that guy, but it's not guaranteed. And yeah, but at the start, some of them were way too big and some of them were way too small. So yeah, at first everyone was like, "Oh, what the hell is this? It's artificial and blah blah." But
Right.
everyone's for it now.
Yeah,
Everyone thinks,
well,
like,
or at least you take it for granted. You don't
Yeah,
necessarily
maybe
have
that
to-
too.
yeah.
that almost coincided with the tall, narrow back wing, which we're going back to the low, wide one.
Right.
That was at first everyone was like, "Oh, that looks really weird. That doesn't look like F1 car," but
Right.
now it does. And then going back is gonna look probably weird. Like, whoa, these cars look weird
Yeah.
with the low wide wing. But I don't know.
So now you guys obviously with that example of the DRS and maybe even the wing, does that give you perspective on
No,
any
this is too.
new?
This is too radical.
Yeah,
this is
that's-
this is
too radical?
This is,
The
no, this is one of the things.
Don't forget about the cock nose.
Oh yeah, those cock noses.
And there's a short cock. They've gotten
it's,
progressively
it's a little
smaller.
bulge.
It's
Oh,
a
it used to be like a
little
point,
nub.
right?
Yeah. And
Okay.
with some cars, the way that they came out to the solution was
think I
basically
remember
like
that
hanging
in-
a dildo of the front.
Yeah, a couple of them they look like Gonzo, elephant, schnoz, my cock basically hanging off the end.
So wait, why isn't it different then?
No, because the way that the car looks, the aero elements or whatever, like yes, there's some things that like that can be like either distracting enough or like there can be enough like they can change the sport in a different direction enough for you to like be up on arms about it and whatever. But this is to me, and I agree. I mean, I know these things work better if we disagree, but I agree that putting something like this or the Halo or any kind of things, just driving these cars like away from just open cockpit racing is tampering with the essence of F1, if you will.
Right.
Now, and I actually gave this a bit of thought. Now, if what you want, going back to what we talked about before, if what you want and what's going to make the difference in actually F1 being the pinnacle of motorsport, whatever is to be that, to actually fully embrace being the pinnacle of motorsport. One of the things that you can achieve that is by being the fastest or whatever. Does it have to be like? Does the pinnacle of motorsport have to be open cockpit racing? That is maybe what it's. You could argue either way now. Like it's.
Oh really?
Well, no, I think that there could be some interesting arguments going in either direction because like. What does open cockpit entail, right? Like it entails more danger, as and this is what they're pointing at.
But could you not argue? Sorry, very quickly. Could you not argue that the speed itself is almost that's dangerous? I don't care who you are. That speed.
And that is the point. Maybe the pinnacle of motorsport has to be the most dangerous motorsport.
This is what
That's a weird argument, but yeah, I can accept that.
I'll reiterate. I still haven't seen a race. I know a couple of the top guys, but something that's been becoming more and more popular recently is MotoGP, because it's dangerous as fuck.
Yeah, it is
that's
really
part of it.
dangerous.
They've offered up
They're taking
racing.
open cockpit to the next level. They're
Yeah, it's
opening
the
everything.
next level. You're sitting on a bike, man, going the same speeds. The average speed is not quite, but they're reaching the same speeds. They're cornering
Oh,
pretty close.
That's another thing.
They're closer
You
and
can't
closer and
have
closer.
you can't have motherfuckers on two wheels going faster than F1 cars like that.
It's
That'll be
still a while to go
that'll
until that if
yeah.
if they ever converge, but the danger is so much higher. And with MMA, somebody died in Ireland about 3 weeks ago in MMA. That's
No, but-
nobody's the rules of that is kick
Going
each other
back-
in the head. The
going back
rules
to
of rugby
MotoGP
is
though.
knock each other in the head.
Let's talk about MotoGP just for one more second here, because I think that is like
Yeah.
people are saying like, oh, the safety, this and that, blah blah blah, whatever, etc., etc. But like nobody's talking about putting a freaking glass shield or like translucent plastic shield around the bikes of MotoGP.
You could,
That is
you could
yeah,
do that
yeah,
and turn it
yeah.
into a two-wheeled car.
Yeah.
and race those.
Yeah, but
and
no,
add all kinds of wings to it and stuff, right? And make it like a.
nobody's
Nobody
talking about,
wants that.
nobody's talking about that.
None of the drivers
because
are
it
like.
has to be the purist. The purist is probably like the just every shape, or at least most, if it's not for safety, every shape of this car, every shape, every little wing or whatever,
It's been thought about
Yeah.
way too long.
to extract the most speed out of every corner and out of every track. This is too much. It's not doing that job. It's just there for safety, and it's too much.
Danny Rick said after, when he was asked like, how did it feel, how did it look, blah blah blah, and do you want this? Should we bring it in? Is this the essence of F1? He said he's one of the proponent, one of the pushers of this. He said it would be, in quotes, disrespectful not to test and look at bringing this in. Disrespectful to who?
To whom?
To yourself? So stop racing then. I'll drive it. If I was offered the opportunity,
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, like Brando said, it's dangerous as fuck. You step into that car, you might die. You might crash it and die.
Yeah.
I would take that chance, man. Let me drive it. Hamilton's laughing about it. Nicky Lauda is missing an ear and half of his head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Rondo asked him, he's like, man, you might be the most, I don't know, experienced, influential person to ask that I could possibly ask about this. What do you think? He's like, man, this shit's safe enough. Basically, that's what he said.
Right.
Yeah, Nicky
don't
Lauda.
need-
Okay,
Nicky Lauda, we don't need this.
So I have a segue, which is still part of this conversation, and it's, what is Formula One, in your guys' eyes, going to look like in 20 years, 20, 50 years?
Jesus, nobody can tell you what the
20
world.
years.
Right. But
Nobody can tell you what the world is gonna look like in 10 years, man.
Right.
If you
Yeah,
look
I
at
understand
Formula
that.
One 2 years ago, nobody could have predicted that the same engines would look like this. Nobody would have ever suggested.
Right, okay,
Canopy.
more
We're
or
going
less
back to fat
direction.
old
Where
wings,
is it
2
going?
meter cars,
Where is
5
it
wheels.
going? What,
Oh, no.
If you assume by the current sort of standards of today and how technology evolves as
Yeah.
quickly as it does,
Yeah.
that you're going to see things change very, very quickly and in a very particular direction.
Yeah.
Ones of efficiency and how they perform, how safe they are. There are so many factors that you could sort of be like, yeah, I could see it going like this, and that because of this, and this, right? So there's going to be...
I don't know.
I can.
Imagine, imagine we live in a world where 30 years we're on the moon, we're on practically on Mars at this point,
Yeah.
right? We're thinking about a Mars GP.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna wait 30 years while we're still doing this podcast.
Don't forget, the moon race is happening.
Moon race. We're gonna have a moon race.
Anyone that's interested, I think you're past the date to enter now. The Google X Prize for the lunar race is the biggest prize ever offered on Earth for anything.
Well, to get to the moon. No, not an actual race on.
Not a race.
No,
race to
it
the
is.
moon.
It is a race to get a vehicle to the moon, drive it 500 meters, and send back pictures and high definition pictures and video of that. That's the race. You get $10 million. That's the biggest prize ever offered on Earth for anything outside of a lottery.
Okay.
This isn't a lottery. It's free to enter.
Right. Okay. So maybe a better way to phrase this is that
next will be
is
the
the
Mars
F1
race.
car in maybe, let's say 10 years. Let's be really conservative and very close.
Yeah.
Is it gonna look like this?
No.
No. Then what's it gonna look like? Is it gonna be like, when I think of like a motorsport, I think of like an engine.
Right.
That's pretty much guaranteed. I
Right,
doubt
yeah,
they'll
yeah.
go electric.
Well,
'cause
yeah, motorsport. Yes, it has to have an engine.
an engine.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
But,
now is that
but
gonna
what
be
is
the-
that engine? What is that engine made of? What kind of power does it use?
Right.
I
so
think.
naturally you have to accept that this sport is going to evolve.
Oh yeah.
It's going to, and it has.
It has
and
to be.
It has, and
to.
it will.
Let me pause you there for 1 second
Yeah.
though, because this is called motorsport. Motorsport encompasses, rally.
Yeah. Sure. Formula E, whatever. Anything that has an engine.
See,
really.
but there's you got to make a distinction. Does
what?
Formula E encompass motorsport?
Yeah.
Because it's
That's
an
a mo-
electric
It has a motor.
motor, right? But yeah, so okay, so that's what I wanted to just define for a second. So that is motorsport, but it's not called engine sport. And typically, engine how you define that is that you're burning gasoline.
Not necessarily, because you had the steam engine before, and those were the engines.
okay,
you could
okay.
race. You could have
You could have
a
race.
category out there with just steam engine
This is true.
cars, and I would call that a motorsport. Why not?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, no, it's and things evolved from we're not racing steam engine cars because the internal combustion gasoline engine came about, and if something that is actually legitimately an option that everybody adopts and whatever, there will come a time when
They could have
they're gonna have to face reality.
They could do
right?
like hemp diesel or algae derived fuels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, whatever it might be, hydrogen fuel cells, and if that's the industry standard around the world and whatever, and everybody is there will come a point, yes, and that's probably gonna become the next like huge like intergenerational issue of F1 is gonna be like whether or not they actually face the fact that the world would have probably moved away from gasoline internal combustion, and do they want to adopt that, or do they want to take the approach that, for example, people are still racing horses, you know what I mean, like are they gonna,
And dogs.
and dogs, like, so are they gonna
Greyhound races are every day.
no, but well, these horse races still
Right.
require like a person,
Okay,
a jockey or
driver.
whatever,
Right. Horse driver.
a driver. So are they gonna are they gonna stick to their guns and say like, you know what, we're just gonna be like the gasoline, the highest gasoline burning series in the world, or are they gonna move on? I'd like to believe that in 10 years, F1 will be in a position where they will be able to like make the most rational decision to keep the sport going in a sustainable way, and that would probably mean moving with the times and facing their reality, and like realizing that you have to move with where you people, and that there's going to be people that are going to be up in arms about the past and whatever, but you have to face the music at one point or another.
I would say this: in 5 years, I would almost guarantee, I'd bet anyone, in 5 years, 5 years is going to be the 2020 Japanese Olympics. The Japanese are hosting the 2020 Summer Olympics. Their goal.
So it's in 4 years.
That's in 4 years. So a year past that, everyone's gonna know about this. The Japanese are pushing hard to debut about 15 huge technologies that nobody's using right now that are gonna become almost a standard at the Olympics, which is part of what the Olympics is, like showing off how badass your country is.
Right.
They want to make a big statement. They've partnered with Boeing, and in 5 years, 70% of all the fuel in all of the jets that will be flying all of the delegates, athletes, and anyone associated with the Olympics will be fueled by algae.
Holy shit.
That means hydrogen fuel cell.
They're aiming for a minimum of 70% biofuel that is grown from algae. They're basically like, they're developing algae that basically eats garbage, puts out
and produces hydrogen. That's what that is. The algae thing is with hydrogen.
It's not all hydrogen. It's a kerosene. It's a
really?
jet fuel. Yeah, it's an algae derived kerosene type jet fuel, with jumbo jets. It's almost like basically kerosene, or maybe kerosene.
Yeah.
After that
jet fuel
point,
is kerosene.
Japan is aiming. If you can look this up, Japan is aiming to make a big splash with that, and then having those facilities spinning that out to their national airlines, etc., and promoting that. Formula One, make no mistake, especially if Honda's still there, if they make the commitment, could stick with the commitment they promised. Honda, if they can beat other people with an algae fuel, that's where it's going to evolve. There's no rules against it.
Right.
There's almost no fuel rules in Formula One, as far as I know. You can mix whatever. Like the gas has been in the last 2 years.
Well,
if
it has to be road relevant. So it has to be like, it has to be kind of close to what cars use.
Yeah, but that's a huge. If that could work, that's a huge business for people to start rolling out algae farms that can grow fuel. If I could make any bet, it's that for the next decade, 5 years for sure. Because in 4 years, reasonable. That Olympic Games, that's their main promotion is algae fuel, biodegradable fuel for the jets. Formula One could go there. I really think that could be my only prediction.
I think
I don't see any evolutions in aerodynamics, anything like that.
No, where would I like to see it in terms of like
graphene tires
the look?
Or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I would like to see F1 embrace way more of the new materials that are being worked on. And if in
battery
10 years,
battery tech is gonna explode as well. There's
battery
been a
tech,
couple
but also
breakthroughs.
materials into like building. Yeah, adding more like graphene bits as they become available because they're lighter. So if anything, I think that we're probably, if we're being completely honest and completely visionaries here, and actually, obviously, like I'm also hoping that maybe at least by 10 years from now they'd realize that they've been over-regulating things too much.
Right.
The way that not necessarily the way that I see things going, but the way I'd like to see it going is that these next 10 or so years that we have ahead are going to be the last 10 or so years where cars looked completely similar. I think that we're gonna see vast differences from team to team, even.
Oh, interesting. Now I'm assuming this is like a post-Bernie era.
Oh yeah, yeah, it would have to be. But in some people's minds, Bernie's gone by the end of this year.
Yeah. We talked about that last week.
Yeah,
that's right. Maybe next week, hopefully, we can give an update on that story.
Yeah,
it's been a race weekend. It sort of got buried. But
I'll
on top of it,
promise you about that.
Speaking of material sciences, though, while we're looking at the Red Bull with the Canopy on, some material sciences brought in this year, people think, is the matte paint.
Oh yeah,
the matte paint. That might be an aerodynamic advantage. Some sort of
material
science.
Does the Renault have that?
Yes, they do.
Right, it's the Renault
and Williams as well.
Yeah, and Williams.
Really?
You can't
see you can't tell because it's white.
White.
They were clever about it.
Right.
Even the Renault as well with the bright yellow, you can't see it in the same way as you can there with the blue, especially when you compare it to their old car.
Yeah.
But something I think, the Canopy, anyways. The debate is on July 1st. Formula One has set a deadline for the decision to bring in either the Canopy or the Halo for July 1st of this year.
Whoa, that's coming up.
It's coming up. We have a short window of debate.
1 month.
Yeah.
Oh, 2 months.
This is the time that we have to talk about this, like we're doing right now. If I had to choose either, I guess I'd go with the window over the Halo. Yeah. But even that, like something Brundle brought up.
There's questions to be answered. Is it gonna have a windscreen wiper? Is it gonna have like how
what do you do at nighttime? What Brundle said at night. Say if you're running
glare?
A night race.
Oh man,
with the glare on top of rain.
Yeah,
rain or nighttime or rain at night. How the fuck do you see out of that, man? You got to put your wipers on in your car. You have to pull over on the car. Yeah. You can't drive without windshield wipers. Or you
but is it really that safe while it's raining and dark? When was the last time that's happened?
It hasn't happened yet. That we've had a wet
night race.
I don't know. Yeah, there was a threat. I think. Remember we talked about last year the night race. But
the
Singapore.
There's been
the Singapore
soaked races and there's been night races. So that's a wet night race is not out of the possibilities.
And we talked just before the podcast today. Moscow for May Day, for the May Day celebration, spent $1.36 million on cloud seeding.
So that's
we talked about this last year for the Singapore Grand Prix.
They
seeded clouds around the city.
They do that every year for the Singapore Grand Prix, so that it rains around the city but not in it.
Yeah, so they take some jumbo jets, fill the gas tank with some sodium iodide or whatever, and they spray it through the turbine, and spray that around the atmosphere, and that combines with the water, makes it extra heavy, and the shit falls. It rains, clears the clouds.
It happens.
That happens.
This is
thing.
fucked. This is fucked. So in a sense, they're still engineering races. Even like they're like, oh, it might rain, it might not rain. But in this case, it's not gonna rain.
Yeah.
You fucking
I think-
changed it.
I think that cloud seeding is totally outside of F1 though. That is probably the federal government saying our entire city is gonna be on TV for 2 days at night with the lights on, looking badass. It cannot rain, and then they force it to rain around the city. They make sure it doesn't rain. They just pay that money. We pay whatever it takes them 6 weeks to set up and take down that track.
Right. I don't know.
crazy.
That still seems fishy to me.
It is. It
it's
honestly
still
is
artificial.
That is artificial.
And something. Remember in qualifying,
Like, how good would it be to have? Now that you mention it, and we were talking about this last Singapore Grand Prix when we were doing the podcast. Is that how good would it have actually? Like, would it be actually to have a night race in the rain? That was sweet. Like,
It'd be
that would
super
that
dangerous.
would really separate. Like, that would like, who's got the balls to do this?
Right.
yeah, man, for sure.
Who can find the grip in here?
I think that example right there is one that showcases like really great talent.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. And I feel like that right there, that's the pinnacle of motorsports. Right? Where like the men
Man and machine battling it like to the limit. Bring it to the limit.
And like
none of this saving tires, conserving shit. To the limit. Right. To
and
the
whatever
limit.
sport it is, you want to see the best of the best. That's why people watch the NBA,
Yeah.
the NHL, the NFL, F1, blah blah blah. Whatever sport you want to see the best of the best in the harshest conditions.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, more so, it's different with F1 and motorsports in general because they're in a different place every time, right? You're not playing on the same rink or the same field every time.
Tracks look different.
Do you trust the earth to provide the conditions?
Right. Yeah.
Right?
And that's
you just show up and you
answer.
fucking race until it's over. You reach 305 kilometers first, then you win. That's the rules. I don't know. The second last thing I have to say about this Canopy is the mirror. Just sort of related. In qualifying, it was kind of interesting. Danny Rick tried out this thing. I don't know if you saw the first round of qualifying or if you saw it. When they tested this Canopy, they took it off. It seemed like it seemed like it was half-assed, like it was kind of clipped, but it wasn't designed like you see. It had like two lips on the front that sort of clipped onto the front of the chassis.
Right.
Like it was built to not fly off and embarrass them, but it wasn't 100% either. It looks pretty good, but during qualifying, Danny Rick's right side rearview mirror flew off. It fell off. Do you see that? It fucked up his time. You saw that?
No.
You didn't watch qualifying?
Oh yeah. No, yeah. His side mirror was like, and then it
his
went
right
up.
rearview mirror broke off on his hot lap for qualifying, and then it was just like flipping around like this on the side while he's trying to do his lap, and he tried to break it off. It didn't, and then it broke off itself. But it distracted him enough. He didn't get into the top 10 on Q2. Probably caused by this Canopy test. Somehow that mirror broke off. The last thing I got to say about it, July 1st is a deadline to decide the Canopy, the Halo. Personally, I don't care which one. Like, if they're going to pick one, like I said, I don't want to be the guy or one of those guys that was like harping against it and then somebody gets hit and dies. But I don't believe in it either. I don't think it should be brought in. I'm going to say I think it should be optional. Let them vote. You can use,
that's great.
You can use one or the other. Try to design it or implement it to your best aerodynamic advantage, or don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they could only run this Canopy on a single slow lap because the cooling, it was affecting the cooling into the main air intake.
You can kind of see it, right?
The intake above the driver's head is where you get the air that the engine breathes.
So just by adding that, this whole section of the car would have to be different.
Be totally different.
So that means that all of like the wing would have to be slightly different. Yeah.
So like say like you own a team, you hire you have a driver on your team like Ricciardo, like Button, like Alonso, like the handful of other guys who have kids and don't want to die racing. and they want this halo, they want a windshield in their face or whatever.
Okay,
Let them throw it on.
I'm just gonna throw this
the
out
guys
there.
that don't, like Hamilton, let him ride with the open and fucking.
This
be a
is what I
badass.
want.
No,
This is what
I don't want that.
I want. This.
I don't like the closed wheels. I don't like. We've had some of these.
Sorry,
things.
I just like the idea of the like it's in a direction of the future. But that's
that
just
that looks like a fast ass car. I'll
Right.
give you
This
that.
is
That
from
looks-
PlayStation though. This was designed by Adrian Newey. This was designed by Adrian Newey.
right.
For
I
Polyphony.
totally-
Polyphony Digital put out this.
I
car.
totally understand that.
Oh,
I,
is this the Gran Turismo?
Yeah, this car was made digital only with a I don't know how you'd say it. It's virtual, like a simulated fan car. Like, see how the floor to the right, yeah, right there. See how it's kind of rounded, yeah, right where your mouse
Sorry,
is.
guys. I
See how it's
didn't
kind of
see
rounded. They put a virtual, as if the car would have a fan to suck, to have super downforce, like a super floor effect.
Yeah.
But Polyphony Digital, who makes Gran Turismo for PlayStation, hired Adrian Newey from Red Bull to make a Red Bull. They called this the RBX, I think it was called.
Yeah, X 2014 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so the X 2014, 15, 16. They did a couple of them now.
so in like 10, 15, 20 years, this is what I expect.
maybe
This is what.
this might be the
Newey
convergence of
would
Formula
like
E
it.
or the Robo Race might come out to.
Right.
But that's not what Formula E though. That's not what Formula One is. With the
I
open-
get that, and just my opinion as someone who's just gone to the sport.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to survive if it doesn't adapt to something.
Hey, and that's perfectly valid. Like, hey, maybe
I'm not saying I'm
Maybe,
right.
maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm not saying
maybe
I'm right either.
maybe I'm like one of those old people, like all up in arms, being like,
Yeah.
you know, my Senna. No, it's if
Because
eventually
eventually
gotta be the
those
future,
people will just no longer be watching Formula One because
yeah.
they won't
be able
exist
to. Yeah.
anymore,
Yeah.
and new people will have to take on the sport. And if you don't care for those younglings, as it were, then you won't have a sport to be supported.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right?
Then it'll just.
They won't exist.
If this is what it has to be, eventually, I think that eventually Formula One, or I hope that eventually Formula One is in a position that they can make the right decisions to move the sport in this direction. If that's what it has to be, if it has to be something like this,
it can still be a regular motor.
no, I know, but yeah, if it has to be this with engine that somehow like consumes kelp oil, then
Yeah.
then that's what it has to be. But honestly, I think that the real change that I'd like to see more than in any of these regulations or how the car moves or whatever is or you know how the car looks or the aesthetics of the car or what's powering the car. The real change that I'd like to see is in the decision-making process, in equipping F1 with the tools necessary to make the changes that are needed fast enough and in the right direction.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
We definitely don't need headlights.
Yeah,
no, like,
that would be like for
This is clearly very silly and
But,
okay, so one last point before we
Sure.
And it's just like when I was a kid, and one of my first video games was on PC, and it was a Formula One game.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, these cars! Like obviously the graphics were shit compared to now.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my god, these things look like they're from the future.
Right.
Like they are the next concept of car.
Right.
When I look at a Formula One car now, I just see the shadow of the past. Let's put it that. They're like, we love this idea about Formula One. It was so great.
Yeah.
But at the time when Formula One was great, like in the to me it was like the 90s, right? Or like
they
the
did
80s.
look really futuristic.
They looked like they were the next idea for streetcars or for
Yeah.
anything like that. But now it just looks like they're trying to
they're the
pay an
same.
homage, right,
Yeah.
to that, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's just not what I would want to look for, and I want to see space
Oh,
races,
yeah.
right?
And no, and everybody at the end of the day, like motorsport is kind of like it's still like it does. There's something about cars racing and at these speeds and the ridiculousness of the noise and whatever that really just brings up like your inner 8-year-old, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
And
Dude, you saw me at the Canadian Grand Prix.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
lost my mind.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
didn't care what they looked like. I was like, holy shit, these things are flying.
Yeah.
Like, they were being launched through gravity, right?
Absolutely, and as long as F1 has the capacity to bring those kind of emotions out, I think that
Yes,
whatever
that's a great point.
whatever ends up happening, but if it's still that, if it's still just really exciting,
Yeah.
your inner
Yeah,
child,
yeah, yeah.
I think it's going in the right direction, or it will be going in the right direction if it manages to do that.
I think the head protection has to be optional.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my
Yeah,
opinion.
that is something that I could agree with, but that would make the aerodynamics crazy.
Yeah, so let it be. If it poses an advantage, then other drivers will have to be like, I guess it's better. We need to use it. Put
True.
that thing in front of my face.
It's
or
true,
if
yeah.
it's not, then
If the halo is
be like,
faster,
well, fuck that guy. He's scared.
true.
I'm gonna beat him.
yeah, it's true.
Nobody is calling for this. None of us, no fans ever
Yeah.
said, let's wrap the driver's head in foam and a styrofoam or put a shield around him or a windshield. Nobody's calling for that. Nobody's calling for it in football or rugby or soccer or fighting. Those sports have gotten more violent, if anything, as
Yeah,
as
that's
people
true.
have evolved in the
Yeah.
last 2 decades with performance enhancers, just general violence, openness of the internet, of learning how to fight, all that
absolutely.
stuff, how to crush your enemy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm against it.
But even if you give that option and say that it is advantageous
Yeah.
to have it, that forces that commitment to like the choice of it
Yeah.
actually encourages the evolution
Oh, yeah.
of the sport, which is still
Yeah.
kind of cool, right? 'Cause
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like, oh well, it is a bit advantageous to have this aerodynamicness.
if it turns out to be, and if it doesn't, it doesn't.
If it doesn't, it doesn't, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say bring it in, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna stop watching.
I don't think it's gonna
it-
happen, by
because
the
it
way.
exists. No, it will.
You think
Well,
so?
Yes,
yeah, some
man.
sort of maybe
Jensen Button, Ricardo.
it's gonna be
behind it,
closer
Alonso.
to that.
Yeah,
Like that in some way, shape, or form is probably gonna get implemented,
that's base. That's
and
basically-
F1 will then miss another opportunity to develop something great that they could. But
It's
whatever.
either that or the Halo or that, which basically is the Halo, but without the glass. Do without the glass. One of the two. He's gonna have the 2 side supports in line of the mirrors, so you can say it's out of the driver's way, or the center, probably without the glass because it makes a lot of problems. But something's gonna happen for sure. Too many guys have complained. It's too far along.
Yeah.
Halo.
Before I guess before we wrap it up, I just wanna end in something that I kind of want. I think that we should get behind, and I kind of want to start. In a way, I kind of want us to start this, and
You want to kickstart it?
yeah. It's just funny. My birthday is coming up.
Right.
This weekend, and on top of the normal birthday things and birthday feels,
And
that
thinking
you
about
start-
your mortality.
Oh,
you
yeah,
want a
yeah,
halo
yeah,
on your
yeah,
life?
yeah, you gotta
put a
get-
canopy
yeah.
on your life.
it really reminds you of your own mortality and all that all those kinds of things. But then it made me think, like back in the day, back in like Roman times, people, even though there was like an official way to like keep track of the year and as a number, as in like they didn't have like we're in 2016 now. They didn't have that
They
same
didn't
number
have cell
system.
phones.
Well, no, right.
Did they have cell phones
No,
back
they
then?
No, they didn't. But instead of having like this numbering system for the years that we have now, they had a numbering system from the years like since the city got founded. But none of the people that lived in Rome, none of the normal Romans used that system. They wouldn't tell you like, oh, I was born in like the year 200 and something. They preferred, like, and everybody knew this. They talked about years in general, as who was the Roman, like who were the Roman consuls at the time. So I lived like remember like 10 years ago in the year of Plinius and Maximus, or like, oh, when were you born? Oh, I was born in the year of like Constantine and whoever, right? I propose to bring this system whereby F1 fans can identify each other if they refer to their own birth year as the year of the champion. So for instance, you were born in the first year of Prost. Danny and I are from the second year of Prost. My little nephews, each one of them, they were born in the fourth year of Vettel and the second year of Hamilton.
That's actually kind of brilliant. It's super adorable.
I am from the second year of Prost.
It's brilliant.
You know what I mean?
I thought you were gonna go with like a Bernie.
No.
No way.
Who was your champion? Yeah, we're all our your champion is Prost. We are kids of the Prost era. Yeah. How and so instead of talking about millennials or whatever, or like or like this new generation, like instead of berating them like that, you can just be like, yo, anybody that was born in the Schumacher years, they don't even know what's going on. They don't even know about good cartoons. And on that note,
can play us out.
All right, guys. We will see you next week with more awesome banter.
# no Halo.
No Halo.
And if the people on YouTube I've been watching, I have now my entire mixing board on my phone. It's brilliant. All right, see you guys.